I think it was the pandemic, when we were all in lockdown and we were at home and we were using various apps to get things, to get food, to book a cab. And it was also a time when there was this contactless delivery. Like, they were so invisible in our lives, yet they were the service providers that we were using the most, especially in the new urban India. And it just sort of felt like, what is happening in their lives? Because these are not traditional working spaces, where you have co-workers, you have a boss, you have a structure which is, it also allows for human interaction. Whereas here you're just by yourself. You have this app and you're grappling with it because many of them are not very educated, and the rules are changing constantly. So this whole gig economy, which has in some ways been a savior for many, both for employment and for consumers, also has its own challenges. And I was kind of curious about it, and I wanted to do a short film. I was actually putting an anthology together with 4 directors. But there were 2 directors who had other projects that were greenlit, and so they left and the anthology kind of fell apart. But the producers had gone to Applause Entertainment, and the CEO, Sameer Nair, he said, I really like your story, and why don't you expand it into a feature film? So initially I was a bit hesitant because I felt the research of algorithm, rating, incentive is not something I would understand, and it's not my world. But as I started sort of delving deeper, I felt, there were many other stories. His wife's story itself was very interesting, and I always like interesting women characters. And not just that, the film then didn't only become about the gig economy. It also became about the disparities in gender, in class, in caste, in religion, all of that which we've kind of normalized that disparity, and it's so omnipresent, it's in our everyday life. So basically everything that's kind of hidden in plain sight in an urban setting in today's new modern India is what I wanted to explore through this slice of life. And I realized if you just follow 2 characters in a 4-day story also, there's so much that you can tell about our context, without sort of making it didactic or heavy-handed or preachy or, sort of issue-based and all of that. Because everything is in those nuances and everything is sort of interlinked as well. A lot of the research initially was in Mumbai, but when I decided I wanted to shoot it in Bhubaneswar, because also we don't see the rest of our country. I mean, most of the Hindi films have the major cities, or even if it's a village, then it has to be somewhere in UP or Bihar, so it's like the kind of diversity visual diversity that we could have, considering our country is so large and varied, we just don't get to see that. And I'm half Odia, and I've been going to Bhubaneswar for many years, and it's a quintessential Indian 2-tier city because it's got these traditional spaces, like it's a temple town, it's got these narrow lanes, but it's also got those high-rise buildings, big roundabouts, like large streets. It's also supposed to be a smart city. So in that sense, it sort of had both worlds, and city is also a character in the film because if you're talking about a food delivery rider, so he's crisscrossing the city all the time. So, so I started interviewing a lot of the riders in Bhubaneswar. We also managed to interview a lot of people from the existing app, the back-end people who obviously didn't want to reveal their names, but they gave us a lot of insight into how these algorithms work. We started talking to also people, just what have their experiences been. Like sometimes I remember one person told me, they said like, the minute they give you the thing, they say, acha humko rate kar dena, give us 5 star. We haven't even eaten and they want 5 star. So I feel like at the very least, after watching the film, or at least everybody in my cast and crew and whoever's seen it, they always tell me that now we see these people differently. Like we notice them, earlier they were just there was just this bright t-shirt. We didn't actually think about them. Now we make the effort to go inside the app and rate them. Like if you got to know that by rating them, they're going to get, let's say, 5 rupees more, would you even think about it? Would you take yourself so serious, your rating so seriously as sometimes we do? Like, okay, what should I rate? Oh, his string had opened up, the tape wasn't there, let me give him 3 stars or whatever, we take it so seriously. So I think at the very least, if we can create that empathy, we can visibilize all these invisible people, and and sometimes people think it's like a blame game for this company or that. I think in my films, if you see Firak, Manto, the main thing is just to be able to show a mirror to our own prejudices, our ignorance, our lack of empathy, our fears. In some ways, if we can see what is that little shift that we can make in our life, I feel like that's really the purpose. I actually wrote it for 2 other actors, but then the dates kept changing because of the pandemic. The shoot kept shifting, their dates kept shifting because of other projects, and then I was very clear that I wanted to shoot it this year because it had already shifted by 6-8 months, and before March because Bhubaneswar gets very hot. And I was looking for someone who looks the part, because that's 50% of the job, in terms of casting, and is credible and has that vulnerability. And there are very few actors who are known, because the producers also want, as you know, when they are already investing in a film that is not so typically mainstream, and then on top of that, if you give them a new face, so they wanted somebody known. But among the known, and they are all friends and they're all wonderful actors, but because there are so few, that there are no surprises, you know what they're going to do. So in some sense, I felt it would be interesting, and to be honest, I'd never seen his show ever. So, I mean, not even a clip of it, because I also don't have a television. Like, he wasn't part of my, we come from very different worlds also. So, but something popped up on my screen while I was searching for it, and it was a award function where he and Karan Johar were the presenters. And he just seemed so candid and natural and representing the ordinary person, even though he's not one anymore. But
that is the
that
one thing
connect
that works for him.
Yeah, but even like he was making jokes as if he was ordinary, and they still seemed real. So there was a sense of rootedness. So I'm very impulsive as a person anyway. It's a boon and a bane, but I just messaged my casting person. I said, send me his number. And he was like, what? He's not going to do it. He's not the right person. He's a comedian. Do you know about him? I said, I know about him. I've never seen him, but just send me. And then I started looking at it in Insta, because I'm not very active on social media. So, in fact, that's what got me into the social media, because I started looking for his clips. And once you look for something, then it keeps coming because of the algorithm, as you know. So then I started watching, and I thought there was a sincerity, like even when he laughs, he's been doing this for so many years now that I know it, that yet there is a genuineness and something that you can connect with, and so yeah, I just took his number, messaged him, he messaged back. So I went and met him, and I said, I don't know whether you're right for it or not, but I just wanted to meet you and see whether this is something that will interest you, and tell me how you respond to it. And he was like, how could you come to me with something like, nobody would, think of it. So I said, but read it. He says, no, I'll do it. I said, no, you must read it. Don't say yes right now. So he read it, and he was like, yeah, nothing big happens, and yet my mind was racing, like, how are you going to end it? And so he was quite grabbed by it, and he said, I've suddenly started noticing all these riders, because my life is from home to the studio and back. He said, even when he was on the shoot, he said, I haven't felt so much sunlight. He said a very beautiful line actually during the shoot in Hindi. He said, मैं भीड़ की खुशबू भूल गया था. Like that kind of crowd of just being with ordinary people sitting on the side of the road, and so it was very new for him. And for me, what worked was that he looked the part. He's not over the top, because sometimes a lot of these big actors are, sometimes you just have to make them more realistic. I didn't have any such problem. And of course, he's not really an actor in the sense his instinct may not be so much of an actor, because he's more of a stand-up comedian, and he responds to laughters, and he responds to smart lines and all of that. But he completely submitted to this new process of acting in a more sort of realistic film. Shahana, who I absolutely adore, both as a person and an actor. And their chemistry was also very good. Like they're working, you know, they're both very generous actors, which also helps, because sometimes one actor like feel like this is my face saying, or you know, I don't want to do this. Sometimes, especially because some actors tend to do that. But they had a great chemistry. We found lovely children for them, in the sense the two kids who play their kids and the mother. And I mean, when you see the film, you'll see 95% are all local actors, apart from 3 cameos and these 2. Everybody has probably one scene here and there, and some have faced the camera for the first time, some are theatre actors, some have done some web series, you know. So it was kind of refreshing to just shoot in a different place. And people are simpler because not big films, I mean, hardly any Hindi films have been shot there. So Kapil was also saying that, you know, had this film been shot in the north, we would have never been able to finish it as fast as we did. But people were just very, very supportive and gentle, and the government were very supportive. So overall, in that sense, the shoot was actually a pleasure, as in, you know, those challenges of shooting with kind of a household name, especially he is in the rest of the country, he is like everybody kind of knows him, and across class, which I realized as well. It's not like we think something is very massy, but many people actually do watch it.